With the loss to North Carolina earlier in the week, the game against Clemson is a must-win for the Louisville Cardinals.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Friday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my 6th year covering U of L, 4th year hosting this show. Want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the world. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back with no fork needed. The vanilla cake flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. There's a lot to discuss on this Friday edition of the show. We're going to continue the weekly mailbag and answer some questions that we didn't get the opportunity to on Thursday. We'll discuss how the metrics seemingly favor the Cardinals. We'll take a look at how seeding could potentially affect Louisville's journey in the NCAA tournament. But we're going to begin today's show by previewing tomorrow's matchup against Clemson. The Cardinals will travel down to South Carolina and tip off with the Tigers at 2 p.m. at Little John Coliseum. Now, this is a place that Louisville has not won at since the 1970s, so hoping to snap a multiple decade streak. But simply put, this is a must-win for Pat Kelsey's team. I did say that for the North Carolina game as well, but it's even more critical considering that you lost at UNC. There's 4 reasons why the Cardinals need to win this game. The first one is perception and narratives. Everyone's been talking about how Louisville's resume is misleading, for lack of better terms. It's misleading because the metrics, we'll talk about it here in the next segment, the metrics favor the Cardinals, but they don't really pass the eye test. They don't have great victories. They get blown out against good teams. Louisville just needs to stop proving the doubters right. Like, you have to get a solid road victory at some point this season, which Louisville has not been able to do. So the first reason why Louisville needs to win this game is because I'm just tired of hearing the same narrative every single game against a good team. Now, I say good team. That really just depends on what you define good as. I mean, like, great games, like a top 25 matchup, a good matchup on the road, because you do have some good wins. You just don't have a great win. You don't have a quad 1A win. Well, the second reason as to why this is a must-win game is because if you do beat Clemson tomorrow on the road, you do pick up your first quad 1A victory, which for those that don't know, basically means signature victory. That's a fancy way of discussing a signature victory. It's 1 through 15 at home, 1 through 25 neutral site, and 1 through 40 on the road. Clemson currently is 36th in the net. Now, will this stay a quad 1A victory if they were to beat Clemson? Got to be honest, I'm not sure, because looking at the rest of the way for the Tigers, they still have to play North Carolina after the Louisville game, and then they'll play Georgia Tech. So if they were to lose both of those games, do they stay in the top 40? I just don't know. Well, even if they slide out of the top 40, I think that there's a chance that they can make up for it in the ACC tournament, but it's still going to be one of your better victories on your resume. And you boost your resume at the end of the day, because even if it does slide out of the Q1A frame, you would pick up another quad 1 victory. And no matter how you slice it, that's good news, because that's what's holding up your resume at the moment, is the fact that you are beating good teams. You're just not beating the best teams on your schedule. You're not winning games away from the KFC Yum Center or neutral site. So a road win against a good team, that's pretty solid. The third reason why Louisville needs to win this game, and I think one of the reasons why they should win this game, is because Clemson is on a huge skid at the moment. They have lost their last 4 games after starting out the season pretty good. They had a January loss against NC State in overtime, but no one really worried about that. Well, February has not been good to Brad Brownell's team. They lost at home to Virginia Tech by 10 points. They lost at Duke by double digits, at Wake Forest by almost double digits, and then they lost at home this past weekend to Florida State. So you might say that, well, Clemson's going to be more desperate because they're doing whatever they can to get back in the win column. I don't really disagree with that, but they're not in great form. They're not playing great basketball. So you're playing a team trying to find the answers, and even though there might be an increase in urgency, they're not really playing all that well. And then the fourth reason as to why I think Louisville needs to win this game and why they should win this game is because Louisville is a better team than Clemson, in my opinion. Like, if you stack up their resume, look at Clemson's resume. They're 36th in the net. They are 3-5 in quad one. They're 7-2 in quad two, 4-1 in quad three with a loss to Florida State. And then they're 6-0 in quad four. So looking at their schedule, their best win is a neutral site victory over Georgia, or maybe a road victory at California. So I know for a good portion of the season, they were at the top of the ACC standings, but you look at who they played in conference play. They haven't played North Carolina yet. They don't play Virginia this season. They played Duke and lost. They played NC State and lost. They did beat SMU at home, but you don't play Virginia. You beat Miami. That's a good win. I mean, it's not like their resume is terrible. It's not. They're a top 40 team for a reason. They are a good team. Brad Brownell is a good coach. But when you stack this team up against Clemson, like compare them, like side by side, Louisville has the extreme advantage in the backcourt with Mikel Brown Jr. and Ryan Conwell. Looking at Clemson, their leading scorer in the backcourt is Justin Porter, the transfer from Middle Tennessee State. He hasn't scored in double digits since January 17th. Then you look at Ace Buckner, true freshman, 6'3" from Dallas, started one game this season. He's been playing pretty well. 5 of his last 6 games have been double-digit scoring, so that's something that you need to watch for is what he's able to bring to the team. But outside of that, you have Dylan Hunter, solid passer, but not a reliable scorer. And you have Butta Johnson as well. But, I mean, the backcourt, Louisville has the significant backcourt advantage. Clemson's MO is attacking in the front court. RJ Godfrey, Carter Welling. Godfrey, 6'8", I think 230 pounds. And then you have Carter Welling, who is 6'10", 225 pounds. They're not guys that are going to stretch the floor, but they're going to dominate you in the paint and around the rim. So that's where Louisville's going to have to step up to the plate and improve their interior defense. Now, I'm interested to see how the Cardinals are going to defend both of those guys, because you would think that Javon Hadley is going to have the assignment of defending Godfrey, and then Frew's going to defend Welling. Both of those guys average double-digit scoring, but Clemson's not a team that scores a lot. They are pretty decent defensively. You have the rebounding advantage. I think you have the overall size advantage, but you have to match Clemson's physicality. They're going to try to get you off of your game. They're going to try to do what North Carolina did. Every time you try to get a basketball off of a screen on a delayed handoff, they're going to bump you. They're going to try to change your course and not allow you to get the basketball. And if you do, you're a little bit flustered. So I think that this is a matchup where, like, looking at the front court, I want to see more Kenai Roots. I want to see more Kason Pryor, Evangelist Zugris, guys that can give you better defense. You need more defense in this matchup, especially in the front court, because I think your backcourt's going to be fine. Now, keys to the game, you already know them because we talk about them literally, no joke, every time that Louisville plays. Starting out the game good, solid defense, communicating, defending the rim, not being predictable on offense. I also think if you go a step further, you need Ryan Conwell to get back to his best. You need him to get back to the form that he was in January, where he was shooting the ball well, because in February, he hasn't been great from the perimeter. Like, you need him to, if he's not making threes, the green light just can't be there unless he's wide open. But if he's not making threes and he's throwing up isolation shots, I understand he can make those shots, but if he's not making them, you have to sort of take away a good portion of that green light. I want to see Javon Hadley, who played really well against Clemson the past 2 games as a Louisville Cardinal, even though they were last season. I want to see him featured in the offense. He's been really consistent. And you need Sinan Defru to be more serviceable than he has been the past couple of games. So I think Louisville wins this game. I think they should win. They need to win. Now, Clemson is still a good team, even though they've went on a 4-game losing streak, even though it seems like teams might have found out how to game plan for them. Brad Brownell is still one of the better coaches in the ACC, and this is going to be a tough game. This is a place that Louisville has not won at since the 1970s. That is for good reason. Clemson is pretty solid at home. So Louisville's got to match the physicality. They have to deal with the mental side of these road games in which they're struggling and not playing up to their standard. And if they are able to utilize their talent and utilize the mismatch in the backcourt, then Louisville should win this game. And I think that they're going to. I think Louisville gets back in the W column. I'm going to say 82-78. I think it's going to be close, but I think Louisville gets the job done. And I hope that I'm not sitting here on Monday saying, oh, man, same thing happened again. But I'm going to choose to, one last time, have them win a road game in the regular season against a good team. But something else that's been a discussion point over the past 24 hours or so is that it seems like the metrics and the advanced stats favor the Cardinals. Well, the fan base might disagree a little bit about what the advanced stats say, and we'll break that down when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number 1 pick for the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. It is Cotton Candy. I mean, talk about a delicious swirl of sugary clouds, a fruity twist, a hint of vanilla. You have that nostalgic carnival-style taste, the sweet tooth fix without any sugar guilt. Now, there's a couple of other under-the-radar flavors that I wouldn't write off. The first one is grape. It's kind of got that like grape juice or grape candy vibe, smooth, almost syrup-like fruit profile with a classic purple candy-style finish. And also, one that we haven't really talked about, but I'm not overlooking this flavor, blue raspberry. Sweet and tangy with a taste that nature couldn't make but should have. Bold blue raspberry candy flavor, reminiscent of the blue slushies, and you have that smooth, easy drinking texture. So, look, do your research, but I feel pretty good about Cotton Candy running the table. Well, 5-Hour Energy shots give me a boost when I'm traveling for my day job with zero sugar. It gives me that motivation. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. It's getting closer and closer to the postseason. If you're like me and you like to get out and go to sporting events, I mean, there's only so many home games left. 1 home game left next week for Louisville. If you are looking to go to the ACC tournament or go to the NCAA tournament, well, Game Time is what you need to utilize. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legit tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. So what you see is what you pay. My favorite feature is a game changer. It is the seat view. So you can see a panoramic view from your exact seat before you buy. No stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience. Take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day. Don't forget the show is free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Get Locked On Louisville ad-free with the Everydayer Club, plus members-only Discord access. Join at lockedonlouisville.supercast.com or tune into the show notes to learn more. You all asked some great questions in this week's weekly mailbag, and I felt bad for not answering those that I felt like should have been answered on Thursday. So I wanted to extend the mailbag and answer 3 more questions in total. The first one is about metrics, and it's a long paragraph, but I'll try to paraphrase this here. Basically, the question states, why does it seem like the advanced stats and analytical metrics favor the Louisville Cardinals more than the fan base does, or myself in particular? Am I the only one that feels this way? I can assure you that you are not the only one that feels this way. I would imagine that a good portion of this fan base, and even myself to a great extent, I also kind of disagree with the advanced metrics and the analytics, basically stating that, long story short, where Louisville sits in the analytics doesn't feel like where they actually sit when it comes to how good teams are. Like looking at some of the analytics, like the net ranking has Louisville at 16, Ken Pom and Torvik have the Cardinals at 18, and Evan Maya released a post on Twitter. I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday. He says, here are the 10 teams that would likely be quote unquote underseeded in the NCAA tournament and provide a lot of bracket value if the bracket came out today. And the Cardinals were right on that list. They're projected as a 6 seed with a 23.2 relative ranking. And the rating above expected for seed was 2.8, which is one of the higher numbers on this list. Now, someone kind of questioned Evan as to why that is, and his response, I think, sums it all up. It says this: Louisville has some big pros and cons for March. Pro, they will be way more talented than other teams on their seed line. Often these teams outperform seed expectations. Con, they will be the worst team in the field at playing up to elite competition. There you have it. It's kind of like high floor, low ceiling. And I think it comes down to this. Before we get into why I agree with the person asking the question, you have to explain why Louisville's high in the metrics right now. Even though they don't have that signature great victory, well, what else do they have? Looking at the net ranking, they've played good teams. Like they played 14 quad 1 games. That's way more than they did last season. They have double the amount of quad 1 victories than they did last year, with the opportunity to add 2 more before the conference tournament even begins. And you look at the resume, they don't have a bad loss. Their worst loss on the season was Stanford. And that is right on the edge of a quad 2. Like right now, it's a quad 1. But it's right on the edge of a quad 2. Like that is their worst loss of the season. Now, it's not only the fact that they don't have a bad loss, but they don't really struggle against teams that they are without a doubt supposed to beat, like the worst teams in the ACC or those quad 3, quad 4 games. They either A, dominate them, B, cover the spread, or C, both. And that is something that like we can't discount, right? Like people want to just continually talk about, well, Pat Kelsey can't win signature games, and nobody's disagreeing with that. But it's almost like people forget that Louisville is where they are in the metrics and in the advanced analytical numbers because they beat the teams they're supposed to for the most part. They don't lose to bad teams, and they don't really get threatened by bad teams either. And I think that their offense probably helps out with the metrics too. But at some point, it comes down to you got to trust and believe what you see on the floor. Like you have to trust the eye test. You have to trust the results. Evan laid it out there. Yeah, they are a very talented team. Their backcourt is really talented. They have a good resume. It's not great, but it's a good resume with good wins. and with no bad losses. But analytics are great to kind of get a better look at the overall picture, right? I think that both have to be included. Like, context matters. You can't disregard analytics, but you can't disregard what you watch. You can't disregard the results. The analytics show you that, well, Louisville beats teams they're supposed to. They handle bad teams. They don't have great wins, but they've got good wins. And the eye test and the results show you that kind of the same thing. It's just you kind of over magnify it because you're watching Louisville, and sometimes you don't see what other teams do as well. Like, other teams aren't perfect around the Cardinals. Like, some teams, maybe they do upset better teams, but they also lose to worse teams. So it's kind of like the law of averages almost. So like just evens out here. So I don't think that the question is wrong whatsoever. I think that the metrics and the advanced stats do favor Louisville more than the fan base, because the fan base has a higher standard, and they're like, well, if you're not going to win the big games, then how can we really view you as a significant threat in March? And not many, it seemed like, do view Louisville as a significant threat in March at the moment. But when we come back, we're going to answer some questions about some aspects of the NCAA tournament. How far do I think Louisville will go? How does seeding affect the journey? And much more. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Coast Pay is giving Locked On College listeners up to $2,000 credit for your business when you get started today. If you manage a crew, construction, HVAC, landscaping, any operation with trucks on the road, you already know how messy gas and materials spending can get. Well, cards get shared, receipts disappear, month end turns into a headache. Coast Pay fixes all of that. It's the modern fuel card and expense management tool built specifically for fleets. Fuel, maintenance, materials, all in one card with real control and instant visibility. Every transaction shows up the moment it happens. No surprises. If someone fuels up at an odd time or tries to buy something outside their limit, you're going to know instantly. You'll get real-time alerts, so you'll always know who's spending what and where. And fraud protection with employee check-ins by text means that you don't have to share any PINs. It works anywhere Visa is accepted, no detours to specific stations. It's built for operators who don't have time to chase paperwork. Right now, Coast Pay is offering our listeners up to $2,000 credit when you get started at coastpay.com/lockedoncollege. Go to coastpay.com/lockedoncollege to see how you can earn up to $2,000 in credits. Terms apply. The Coast Visa commercial credit card is issued by Celtic Bank. All card accounts are subject to credit approval. Card Nation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment in the YouTube section below. Both are great ways to help the show continue to grow. This is the final episode of February, and when we come back, it'll be March Madness. Louisville has 3 regular season games left before the ACC tournament and before the NCAA tournament. At this point, it feels like Louisville's a lock to make the big dance. Well, 2 questions about the NCAA tournament in particular. The first one, how far do you think the Louisville Cardinals go in the postseason? That, of course, depends on 2 things. A, the seed that they get. B, the matchup, because the matchups do matter. Like that 4-team pod with whatever seed they get, the team they play, and then who they would potentially play in the round of 32, that 100% matters, because if they get a good draw and teams that they match up well against, they could end up making the Sweet 16. But if they have a tough first-round matchup, they could lose in the round of 64. Personally, I think they're going to win 1 tournament game. That's how far I think they get. I think that if they get anywhere from a 5 to an 8 seed, I do think they record 1 tournament win. But after that, I mean, they're probably not going to be favored to win the round of 32 matchup. And seeing some of the options out there, it seems via bracketology, I don't like some of the matchups in the second round. And how can you put a ton of confidence out there when you haven't seen this team really get a signature victory this season? So it's kind of one of those things like a 6-foot putt in a golf scramble when there's money on the line. Got to see it. Got to see it happen before I can count it. And it's kind of like with Louisville. Like, I got to see them win tough games before I talk about how far they can go in the tournament. Now, could that change? I suppose it could. If you win, if you win out the rest of the regular season and you record road victories at Clemson and at Miami, and you make some noise in the ACC tournament, then yeah, I think that there's a legitimate conversation to be had about second weekend. And I think that they can make the second weekend. For the record, if you're asking me how far I think they'll go, I'm just going to say around to 32. How does potential seeding factor into how far Louisville could go? Because it seems like you're in a more advantageous spot at a 6 seed versus a 5 or a 7. Yeah, 100%. Because you're going to be expected, like if you're a 5, 6, or 7, you're still expected to win the first game. Now, granted, the 7-10 game is not easy, but you're going to be expected to probably win that matchup. The 5-12 versus a 6-11, like you look at who gets those seeds, the 11 seed sometimes are the last teams in. They are those mid-major teams that, the high major teams, the Power 5 teams that might not be as good as some of the mid-major teams, but they have a better resume, so they get in, while the 12 seeds could be your top mid-majors. So 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, it seems like the numbers favor the 6 versus 11 than they do the 5 versus 12. And then you look the next round, 4 versus 13, 3 versus 14, and then you have, of course, 2 versus 15. If you're the 7 seed and you win and you play the 2 seed, it's tough. Going to be pretty tough, especially looking at this year's 2 seeds. Like, I think that there's a drop off between like the 1s and the 2s and everyone else. Like, it's very top heavy in college basketball. There's a ton of parity, don't get me wrong, but it's very top heavy. And if you're the 5 seed, you're immediately playing a 4. 3 versus a 6. I just don't think that there's a huge difference between a 3 and a 4. I really don't. I think, honestly, this might be a hot take. There might be more of a difference between the 11 and a 12 than there is a 3 and a 4. Like, I think 12 seeds, they're the teams you don't want to play. They're the mid-major teams that just completely throw a wrench in your plan. The teams that most are choosing as their Cinderella squads to make the Sweet 16, right? It seems like 12 seeds are the most popular seeds to make those predictions with. And the 11, like, it feels like with the 11, you're either going to the Final Four or you're losing first round. Of course, that's very extreme, but the numbers back it up. 6 seed is very advantageous because, I mean, if you're in that portion where you're probably going to have to beat a team better than you or seeded better than you in the second round, give me the 6 seed over anything else. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, give me the 6 seed. I think that would be as advantageous as it could be. Now, it all depends on matchups because you could be a 5 seed and play week 12 and maybe the 4 seed isn't that great and they end up losing to the 13. Things rarely ever go as planned, but with the NIL era, it seems like, at least last year, not as many upsets happened. So we'll see. But, I mean, the seeding does affect things, but it's not so much what seed you get as much as it is who you are matched up with and who that potential second-round matchup could be. So that is going to wrap up this Friday edition of the show, the last episode of February. Thanks for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day all throughout this month. We'll be back here on Monday to start March as we get closer and closer to postseason play. Everyone have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Go Cards.